Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Roundup, back again for season 8 of the ADBBL. We're here, as always, to go through all of the action from the last week's worth of games. This week, the last week's worth of games is 1 day's worth of games, but we'll be talking about the draw, we'll be talking about the 4 games that have been played, and then we'll have a little bit of a look forward to the rest of the season. For anyone who is new to us here at the Roundup and at Blood Bowl Live and at the ADBBL. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by the ever-present, ever wonderful, and fantastic duo that join me for all of the shenanigans that we do over here. First up, the man who waffles better than anyone else I know to such an extent that we've given him his own corner for this series. It is Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, welcome back.
Good evening, Christopher. Good evening, Tom. Hello, chat.
And joining us, as always, yet again, he is the man who, if rolling ones was a Olympic sport, he would be a 10-time gold medalist. It is Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, welcome back.
Good evening, everyone.
Well, we've got 4 games to go through. We're going to go through the draw, and we're going to go through all other manner of things. We'll have a little look at the groups, see what we think of them, see what we think of our groups, and all of that stuff. Before we do, though, I think we'll give everyone a reminder of how they can follow the league. It's our 8th season in the ADBBL, and it's the 4th season that we have been bigging up in this sort of way, with all the hype that we try and do. So Tom, if people want to follow the season, how do they go about following it?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you've probably no doubt realized you found us on Twitch. So hello. So we're on Twitch, streaming live every Monday, and also doing a number of games as and when we can do live games in store at Aardvarks and Dragons Woodbridge. Regardless of whether you are in the league or not, you can also follow us on Tourplay. Just search for A&D BBL Season 8 and go and see the teams and get to all the facts. And also the latest from our roving reporter now. We've got a roving reporter. So thank you very much, Luke, for giving us extra kind of page-turning interest on that side of things. We've also got YouTube as well, so you can get us on YouTube. And also we have our Discord channel. So if you are playing in the league, but not yet on the Discord, let us know and we can add you to it.
Amazing.
I think out of all that, I think I've got them all. Scott, keep me honest. Have I got them all?
It was good for me, Tom. If it was good for you, then we're both happy. Let's not say anything more.
Okay.
It was beautifully well rounded out, Tom. Beautifully well rounded out. All our coaches, if you play one of your games, please do get in touch with our roving reporter, Mr. Luke Baggett. Give him the lowdown on how your game went, so that he can put a little article up on both the it will appear on the Discord and also appears on Tourplay. So anyone following the league can see all of the action and see everything that's going on and get some details. So please do let Luke know about your games. Before we dive in then to the first games of the season and talk about the draw, I'm so pleased to be able to once again welcome you all to the cozy little world that is Scott's Corner. Scott, what have you got for us on this first episode of the new series?
Thank you, Christopher. Dearly beloved, welcome. Welcome to Scott's Corner, the 5-minute segue where financial charity-based exploitation, merchandise hype, and caffeine-fueled insanity all skip hand in hand through the meadow of incandescent Blood Bowl rage that is ADBBL. Like Trinity said to her Neo, we know why you're here. We know what you've been doing, why you hardly sleep, why you live alone, and why night after night you play with your dice. Are you, Blood Bowl coach, are you excited by Season 8? Are you excited and terrified in equal measure? We hope so. Quick disclaimer before we go on. According to our legal department, all attempts at humour and wit tonight are copyright Tom Hovell Netflix special. So what have we got for you in the corner tonight? We have merch news. We have the secret to booking a game so you don't end up in Ipswich A&E. We have the usual shout-outs and emotional manipulation as we look to raise more funds for some great causes. Let's start then, as we mean to go on, badly perhaps, but let's start indeed. So tonight's shout-outs. First of all, Mr. John Reader. It's all true. Secondly, shout out to James Handley. Sorry, James, you're now dead to us for season 8. We just can't mix Blood Bowl business and pleasure, but be assured, and you know you always have a place in the Roundup team hearts. To everyone in chat, to everyone in this community in and outside the UK, to Dazamak over in Corby, to Lord Pat of the Vander East across the ocean, or to Tom's new German friend, we salute you all. And as ever, this one goes out to all you lovers out there. Let's start. Let's talk merch. We cannot deny, we cannot confirm any Season 8 merch rumours. However, a reminder that your Blood Bowl team and personal safety is at risk if you do not keep up repayments on any merch. So, what do we have, though, that will make your life complete? Tom, if you do the honours, please. Remember these? You thought they'd gone away, didn't you? Think again. We proudly present the ADBBL beer mats, 6 quality beer mats that show where on earth things are on a BB pitch, how far things can go. And all of these can be yours for just £5. 6 of these beauties for £5. All profits go to our designated charity. We do this because it makes a difference. It makes a bloody huge difference. And myself and the Roundup team make no excuse for this blatant emotional manipulation. To put it simply, we want your money and we are coming for it. If you're unsure before, or if you want more mats, I have 3 little words for you. Christmas is coming. Yes, it is. Diamond rings. Ha. A new mobile phone or games console. These square beauties can elevate you to levels in your life that you never knew you even dreamed of. So if you want one or some, get yourself in store, cash only. And remember those end zones. For a donation to the Just Giving page, we have a team of 3D printing maniacs ready to bring to life your darkest plastic desires. And they even print end zones. Do you see what I did there, Tom? That was just for you.
Wonderful.
Talking of stores, get yourself down to Aardvarks and Dragons. When I say get down, that's not a Funk Soul Brother reference. I mean, go to Aardvarks and Dragons, see Scott Phipps, profess your love, and spend money. That's all you have to do. When you set foot upon those hallowed grounds, you may want to play a game. No, not Thermonuclear War for all the retro kids out there, but Blood Bowl League that you've been talking about and arranging on Discord. So make sure you book a table. It's an exclusive place to be. You can't just rock up at A&D and roll your dice. So what you're going to ask is, how do you book a table? Let me remind you. I remind myself at times as well. First, don't go to Scott Phipps's house, knock on the door and expect mercy. It's not coming and it's a lonely path to crawl back from. Agree your date, agree a time on Discord, and one of you, just one, not 2, not 1, not even 3. We like 3, we like 2, but one of you message the store. Call the store. Don't call Scott's personal number. And again, don't visit the house. Your custom is important to us here at AD and BBL. Any lack of safety due to incurring the wrath of Scott Phipps is at your own discretion. For all our legal queries, please do refer to our website for details. Is there anything more, you cry out? If a game of violence, dice, and environmentally unfriendly plastic isn't enough, we now have something else. We now have Blood Bowl Bingo. What is Blood Bowl Bingo? This is more than just bingo. This is ADBBL Blood Bowl Bingo. It is a stupendous idea brought to fruition by the scheming of Luke Baggett, head coach of the Orphic Gladiators. Go to our Just Giving page, make a donation. Make the difference in someone's life.
You know, the hype that we got from Scott was so intense that every bit of technology that I have turned to dust in a moment. So let's just go with it. Let's just go with it. At some point, at some point we'll nail this. You watch. If you stick around long enough, we'll be in a BBC studio with perfect, unquestionable technology. So, okay. All of my systems are telling me that Twitch stats are, they are updated. Oh, people have come back. Well, thank you everyone for coming back. Scott, I believe you were near the end of your corner, were you? I'm so sorry to have interrupted you, sir.
All I'll say is it was good for me. So that's all that matters, really. So, yeah, thank you. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Well, we will very quickly, for anyone who wasn't there or is a fan watching outside, tell you what we did differently about the draw this year. So, previous years, we have separated people into groups of 4, and everyone has played each other twice, with people progressing from those groups into playoffs. This season, we did the draw a little bit differently. Rather than lots of groups of 4, we have got 2 big groups of 16. And within those 2 groups of 16, coaches will face 8 different opponents. So you won't play the same person twice. Then, once that table is finished, once all the games are played, people will split off into playoffs, depending on where they finished in that group. So, a lot more games to play, a lot more variety in opponent, and a lot more Blood Bowl to get through. The draw was done on Sunday. We pulled names, we seeded our coaches so that the 2 groups have a relative balance of abilities and previous performance in there. Hopefully, meaning that there is a good spread of people that you end up playing. Some people have had better draws than others. Having said that, I can think of one person whose draw I don't want and one person whose draw that I do. And I'm neither of those 2 people, and neither is Scott or Tom. So let's now you know what the draw was. After the draw, anyone who was around could immediately grab a game with an opponent if they wanted to. And lo and behold, 4 games were played yesterday, and we'll go through those 4 games. And not only for 4 games yesterday, all 3 of us played yesterday. So we've got hopefully some level of a good grasp on what actually happened in those games. So let's dive straight in then. And Mr. Tom Hovell, we are going to kick off with yourself. Clueless Crusaders. Contrary to any belief that I had, you kept the humans registered for this season. Starting the season against Jane's Wolverhampton Shamblers, a team who you played twice last season, so a very familiar opponent. It's a long season, so these first games arguably aren't very important. So why don't I hand over to you to tell us what happened in this 2-0 win for the Necromantic Horror?
Yeah, sure. So I've played, as you say, Jane twice before. I won one and drew against the other one. So we're pretty evenly matched, and we both agreed on that. We're both coming in with redrafted teams. But as the name suggests, my team are completely clueless, completely failing re-rolls of pickups and catches. They were pretty appalling on the dice rolls, as you can well imagine. That is not to take away anything from Jane, who played a fantastic game. Anyone who's playing as Jane, be careful. Those werewolves are dangerous. It was a great fun game. We were actually playing in the additional venue first time in Hopsters of Woodbridge, so just diagonally across from the store, or you can now play in a bar with alcohol, which is great. As long as you buy a drink, they will let you go in there and play. On certain times,
certain days.
So just double check beforehand. But yeah, great game. It was backwards and forwards. I actually managed to get my first casualty of the season as well, so it wasn't too bad on that side of things. Yeah, and I lost 2-0.
So okay, so you're familiar with humans and you're familiar with Necro, so
Yeah.
and you're familiar with Jane as a coach. So we also know that you have some of the worst dice rolls that I've ever seen in my life. Always, constantly. So how much of this was Jane playing a good game? How much was you having an off day? How much of this was just the dice? Like, is there something that you would put down to this result?
Jane's quote and kind of mantra of the game was embrace the chaos. So there were a number of turns where she was making quite risky moves, but they were being pulled off. Yeah, and my kind of thing was do as I say, not as I do, because every time I tried to do risky moves, my team just fell apart. There were a couple of key moments where I made some mistakes where I overextended the team, so I spread them out a bit too far and couldn't get back, and Jane just set apart, just dismantling my team. With, like I say, the walls are fantastic in the necromantic horror team. If you can get them to pick the ball up, they are just unbeatable. I think the fact was that my catchers, although are of an equal speed, that extra strength on the werewolves plus frenzy really does show why they're one of the best players in the game. And she also plays some fantastic positionals with the things with the likes of her wraiths and also her ghoul. Her ghoul is I'm going to potentially put that up for bounty. That ghoul, it's a blodge sidestep ghoul. It's a nasty piece of work. You can't get rid of it, so it might go up on the bounty. So be warned, Jane.
Blodge sidestep strength 3 is a hell of a combination. It's really like that is a terrifying piece. Scott, Jane will be very happy with this start to the season. We know that this is a much longer season, so we know that first game results, could be huge, could not be huge. There's a lot of games to play in this group stage. What would be your words for Jane after this good start, and what would be your words to Tom after maybe not the start that he wanted?
I better keep this clean because we're on stream. Jaden, keep doing it with those wolves. Keep exploiting them and skilling them up as much as you can. Jay's got a very good base to work on as well. Just looking at her players, we knew when this clash was decided upon yesterday. I was thinking this was going to be a 1-1 draw, to be honest, especially in light of how these matches evolved last season. So to see Jane win 2-0 was a bit of a surprise. I was feeling for you, Tom, not in that way before you start, but I was thinking of you, and the dice rolls don't last all that long, even though you're doing a sterling job of getting those ones. I think Jane's in a good position. She's got some good SP in terms of key players. The Flesh Golem, she's not too far away. She's halfway there for another one on Fenris, the werewolf, and also that Ghoul Runner, who's the Blodge size stepper as well. So I think it gives Jane a good base. Tom, it's a long season, as Chris said. There are some interesting skill choices that seem to have come along last night, Tom. I'd love to listen to your rationale and share with chat and the group. Was that just a slight moment of random petulance, or was it part of a longer-term game plan that is beyond the genius of men?
Well, I just thought, well, if you're going to play like Nurgle's lineman, then I might as well bloat you all out and just give you a whole load of skills. So I just thought sort of I just late last night I was crying over a pint and just pressing random.
Chris, is that the sort of thing you've done on occasion?
Crying to a pint while randoming skills. Every season, Scott. Excellent. Every season. We'll move away then from our games that we had, and we will jump into another game, an interesting matchup that we had yesterday. The Transfigurian Terrors versus Baldur's Army. John redrafting his vampires from last season, and Leanne bringing a brand new team to this season as well. A good result from John here. a very strong result. Leanne, sadly, starting the season maybe the way last season ended, with some results like this. Tom, we'll come to you first. John will be happy to have come away with the amount of SPP and everything that he has here, but early doors especially, it was by no means simple. Leanne removing a lot of players from the pitch early on.
Yeah, they were playing next to us, and I kind of had a little bit of an input on here because, as you can tell, they Boulder's Army had 230k in inducement money. So it's a new, believe it's a new team for Leanne.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so she wanted to kind of get some advice. Clearly, John was more than happy to help, but wanted a second opinion on the basis that he was about to play him. So I was giving her a rundown of what the star players were along those kind of things. In the end, she liked the idea of Bomber, and I kind of recommended Scrapper Sawhead on the basis that she's got Black Hawks and it might help with Cat picking up the ball and running with it. She also liked the idea of the Wow Drummer. And as you quite rightly say, started off quite well. Started smashing up the actual trawls, as I kind of recommended, to try and get them out. But unfortunately, as we well know, if the vampires don't roll ones, they are pretty lethal, and they can race through very, very quickly. So I think John was really setting his sights on getting a few SPP on this team to build them up as quickly as possible for the upcoming games. But ever the master of the game, he was helping. Well, he was giving advice and giving kind of almost tutorage to Leanne throughout the game. You know, the true gentleman he is. It was a fun game that I could watch as I watched through the tears of my game crumbling next to it, and I think everyone had a good time on it.
It was a good first matchup in a way, a good first matchup for both of these coaches, because last season, John started with some werewolves being casualtied, missing the games, immediately put himself on the back foot and didn't make it out of as one of the top two in the group, because of the recovery. So starting a game like this, he'll be very happy with. While Leanne's not got maybe a great result here, Scott, she will have learnt a lot from John. I think we've all played against John at points. And when I was first starting in the league, I think I had a couple of games against him. And you learn a lot playing against these good opponents.
You learn an exceptional amount, especially against Mr. Reader. And even when Leanne did incredibly well, and I think when I saw he had five vampires, or several thralls and vampires, 5 or 6 figures off the pitch. So Leanne was doing a very good job at taking his players out of it, but unable to get that final block or blitz to really make that pressure count. Leanne's enthusiasm is an example to us all. She said she learned lots. She really enjoyed it and is really enjoying that. I wasn't aware of, Tom, your new role as consultant coach in terms of, recommending Bomber and Scrapper. So are you going to take full responsibility for the score and refund Leanne accordingly?
Well, her dice were better than mine. I'll swap her dice if you want.
But for me,
yeah, go on, so.
I was just going to finish off, as well as obviously Tom's new consultancy in the field of Blood Bowl and Netflix documentaries on comedy. John's vampires are just gaining momentum and they're starting to look very scary indeed. It's the sort of team you look at and you really don't know, do you want to wait and play them, see how they go? Maybe they'll get a few injuries, or do you just want to try and catch them as cold as ever they can be caught? I did notice earlier that John has upskilled one of his players, so he's got another player now with Pro. So the block dodge Pro combination is very prevalent. He's also got a strip ball block vampire blitzer. Oh, dear me. And he's got 4 re-rolls, 4 dedicated fans. He's already up to 35th best player in the Vampires in the UK on tour play. Yeah, I'm glad I haven't drawn John. That's what I say.
It's it's an interesting one, and I think a key thing for any coach to remember this season, and something that anyone watching who's not taking part in the season won't know, is that this season there are no bonus points available. So last year, John would have taken 5 points away from this game because he would have got the bonus point for 3 touchdowns. He would have got the bonus point for the clean sheet. He's only taken 3 away. And it's still a big 3 points. It's still, you still need to get the wins in to get yourself up the table. But from Leanne's perspective and the perspective of anyone who didn't come out with a win this weekend, you've not dropped 5 or 6 points. You've only dropped 3. So that is it. I think that should be a good kind of motivation to anyone, because actually, just getting that one win or even getting a few draws on the table it's a lot more. I think it's got a lot more weight and can be a lot more reassuring than maybe last season when bonus points were in the mix. So something to remember. Well done to both of these coaches for playing out a very entertaining game. We will move on now. Mr. Scott Bryant, we're going to move on to you. Match up against the Hillbilly Howlers, the Chaos Chosen team. A match that going into it's tricky. You and Simon have played each other a lot over previous seasons. You'll be very familiar with how each other play at this point. And I think fair to say, and you can probably tell us why, it didn't take long into the game before I think you were visibly quite negative about what the prospects were. So this is a great result.
I think that's a polite way, Chris, of saying after the first kickoff event in which Simon got a blitz event, and he absolutely rightly blitzed a war dancer, my mighty blow tackle war dancer. He injured him and cashed him, got a casualty, took him off the pitch. I could have wept. I could have walked into the corner and sobbed and done some rocking back and forth. And at that point, I saw you try not to smile. I saw JD Clark smile, as supportive and as beautiful a man as he ever is. I did think if I can get out of this with a draw, I would be very happy bunny. Simon and I do have history in the nicest possible way. This was the 5th time we've played each other in leagues in the last 3 seasons. Played Simon's Underworld Denizens twice, his Humans twice last year, and his Chaos Chosen now this year. And it was ironic during the draw and the ceremony and all that good stuff. Simon actually made the comment, it'll be myself, you, and the Prince of Vampires, the man, the myth, the current champion, Tom Huns, again for the 3rd season. So when we all got drawn in the same half of the draw, it was thinking Nuffle has plans and designs for us. But no, it was not to be. So yeah, went into the match at a very high TV against it. Simon said he already knew what he was going to do in terms of his very substantial inducements, all 220k of them as well. So he took the Mighty Creek Rust Gouger, dragged the fabulous Rat Ogre Ball and Chain Beast out of the dark places, and I thought I was going to be in an absolute painful place without whatever would have happened. So when you're facing a Minotaur, when you're facing a Horns-based team, and then Krieg, I thought it was going to be a very slow afternoon and a very painful one as well. Simon only took 1 reroll, and that was a thing which was a big deciding factor. So Simon actually won the toss, decided to kick to me. Started off, as I said, well with the blitz to remove Bob, the war dancer, all 185k of him, which was a bit painful. And Els weren't playing too bad, standoff. The thrower decided, though, to do a double rush, failed, the ball bounced, and for the first half, we sort of got away with it. By half time, I was down 2 elves, but as we started the second half with Krieg and the Minotaur on fire, it wasn't before long, I was down to 6 elves on the pitch. And at that point, I was thinking, if I get a 0-0 draw out of this, I would have been exceptionally happy. And I think it was at that point the one re-roll really started to impact, especially on a couple of players, the War Dancer and Lineman with the Blodge combination. And then when Simon rolled both down, used his re-roll, both down, had a few Chuckle Brothers moments of the ball bouncing round to me, to you, to me, to you on multiple occasions. And it was one area, War Dancer leapt in, stripped the ball. The thrower came around later, did a blitz on a goat. The ball went everywhere, fell on the outside of the melee. The thrower, because of the blitz, had the enough movement to jump in, 4+ pickup, jump out, go, shielded it, and then just managed to get it down the end of the pitch for that turn 16 score. So from what I was expecting to be when I had just 6 elves on the pitch, it'd be a very painful, very long afternoon and a very quick one. Between that and the kickoff event second half, we had timeout, so we lost a turn. It was the quickest game that Simon and I have ever played, and I was an exceptionally fortunate coach to come away with that win. But a win's a win, and I've been able to get an APOC for the next match, so I'll take that.
The difference in SPP here is not massive, is it? So the 1-0 win for you, the 1 cash for Simon. SPP wise, because of completions and other things, you both walk away with a sort of, when you look at the SPP you've gained, I think that does kind of reflect how close the game it was, really. Sort of when you look at it. Tom, we know that Chaos Chosen are a team which can become very brutal. We've seen that with the Riotous Rams over various seasons. Chaos Chosen maybe a bit of a different team for Simon. Humans last year, Underworld Denizens before, sort of a bashier option than maybe we've seen him take previously. Do you think that will take some kind of getting used to as the season goes on?
Yeah, the Chaos Chosen are an interesting team, as you say. It's clear from the SPP that the Beastmen with horns just really gives them an advantage, so they can do a one player kind of blitz and still get 2 die on the majority of players. Looking at the actual tour play, it did look like a quiet match, so you did kind of, by the looks of things, get away quite lightly by what he was taking with against you, Scott. It also interesting to see Krieg didn't really play any part as such. How did he perform on the day?
He put some elves down. He KO'd a couple of the elves, but again, I think there are a lot of KOs that weren't necessarily turned to casualties, even though they were off the pitch. And especially then in Simon only played Krieg in the second half. So he didn't start with Krieg. He only played Krieg from that second half. So the first half was really all about having the 4 blockers. One of the things that Simon wanted to do with this particular team, he told me this later, he was debating about going with 3 blockers and 2 re-rolls, or the 4 blockers and the 1 re-roll. So he decided to go blocker heavy with all of those AV10 big guys as well. That and the Minotaur. So he bought Krieg on for the second half. And of course, Krieg's special rule, I'll be back, means as a special weapon, he can come back for a second drive as well, which is always a very dangerous thing for a 1/2 match. Unfortunately, as it happens with Ball and Chain, for the third activation for Krieg, he sort of danced around an elf, which is a very painful thing. So, you don't roll the 3 or the 4, you roll the 1 or the 2, then the 5 and the 6, then the 1 and the 2, then the 5 and 6. And it's a bit of a handbag sidestep type moment. So, yeah, that meant that he didn't really get Krieg and the Minotaur into the match. Who I did try to foul with Lana Del Rey, and as one of my linemen. And well done, Lana Del Rey. She did roll a double 5 on the armor break, so he stunned the Minotaur. And then she rolled a 6 on an Argue the Core, which everybody loves. So rather than being at 5 and I was at 6, and I think that one elf and a war dancer, was on fire. He really, really was. And with strip ball as well and a war dancer, 4-up leap into the cage, strip ball. Thank you very much. I'll take that.
It looked like a really close game. It looked like one
It
that
was.
you both had to kind of work for, and not a lot in it, which is great. Which is a really great way to kind of kick off the season. So I think great win for yourself. And again, I don't think Simon should be too down after fighting close to that. The difference in points, something that can easily be made up as the season goes on. So.
Yep.
Good luck to the both of you going forward. We'll go on to the last game, if I can navigate my way there, which was myself. It's the Orphic Gladiators of Luke versus the Bitey Ducks of myself. A 2-0 win for me in what was comfortably one of the most enjoyable games of Blood Bowl that I have played in a while, and that credit lies firmly at the door of Luke. We had just a great time, really getting into the game and really kind of just sort of figuring things out, doing what we wanted to do, and having a laugh and a drink while we did it, and it was really, really enjoyable. I think 2-0 is possibly a bit kind. I was absolutely terrified going into the game because I knew that the Chaos Renegade had the 3 big guys, had the Ogre, the Rat Ogre, and the Troll, and then also Borak came in for good measure. And in a preseason friendly, Borak was trouble because he can foul and break armor on an 8 on all of my sort of big lizard men. So it was quite daunting, but yeah, was able to weather the storm well enough. Ratoga managed to surf the Croxagore at one point, but luckily the crowd were a fan, just knocked her out, and she came back next drive. So it was really good, and I think actually, I thought the game was going to end 1-1, and it was I think probably what is one of the problems with the Chaos Renegade team is that because you've mainly got linemen, you maybe do have to rely a little bit on those big guys, and the Rat Ogre knocking themselves to the ground and knocking themselves out, failing the Lolan reroll, left a big hole and a free Saurus to go and retrieve the ball from a goblin. So without that, I think they were marching their way down nicely, shielding the ball nicely, and I think I would have really struggled to free that ball up. And my best bet would have been trying to delay it to keep it 1-0, but not get a second. But yeah, the one failure from the Rat Ogre is what probably decided it in the end, stopped it being a draw, and made it a 2-0 win. So a very close and very fun game, which I really enjoyed. And I will hand over to you guys for any questions you may have.
Yeah, so it looks like it was evenly matched on the blows for blows as well on that side of things. You seem to have been causing quite a few casualties, but then I think in fact you even stat busted one of his human linemen, which is a bit cruel on the first game,
Yeah, strength stat bust was a bit brutal. It's the one season that bonus points for casualties don't count, and it's the one, and I rarely get the bonus point for casualties. Like, my lizards aren't as punchy, I don't think. As I don't normally play them overly punchy. I play them quite defensive and then quite agile. So to get the casualties was interesting. Something that I did find, which I did kind of clocked near the end of the game. There were a few instances near the end of the game before I scored where I could have, if I had to play Luke again. So if this was last season, there would have absolutely been the incentive to gang foul both big guys, gang foul some other players who had knocked down, and see how many players I can just get rid of. But the ball was way down the pitch. The ball was safe. I had enough cover on relevant players that they were going to struggle to stand up and blitz, and I didn't bother. Fouling is not something that I felt I needed to do. It was late in the game, and all it would have done was broken armor and possibly hurt Luke's season. And I possibly don't need to play Luke again unless it's in the knockouts. So it sort of dawned on me then the different way that I was thinking in how I was playing, because I knew I didn't have to play him again.
Did you think, Chris, you've redrafted? I don't. How many times have you redrafted the Ducks? Is this the second time for this incarnation of them?
It's my fourth season with them, and this is the second. This is the second time that this version of them. So the first time that this version of them has been redrafted.
So, do you think your redrafted Ducks, the fact that they had a wider spread of skill sets, so you had your jump up, sidestep, and then you only really had your block on your Sora, did you think you had more cohesiveness and a better balanced team than Luke's Renegades, even though Luke had Borak? So, do you think was Luke maybe had that too much heaviness in terms of too many big guys, or did you think that Borak, as you said, with his strength, skill in terms of armor breaks on fouls on an 8, do you think that helped or hindered in terms of that overall balance of the team for the Renegades?
I think what helped, the jump up sidestep on my skink, I don't think ever came into play. I protected that skink well enough. They never got blocked. I don't think I used it once. The block on the Saurus may have, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 times that was helpful, but not overly. I think what helped me was the fact that I had a sub. I started with 7 strength 4+ players, and I had 3 rerolls, and I think that's more what is bloating my team value rather than actually the skills on the players I've redrafted. I'm not a huge fan of the Renegade team, because I think it is very big guy reliant, and you do not have a lot outside of those big guys to support if they fail you. And I think there were a couple of times where those big guys did fail their activation rolls a couple of times and were kind of left in no man's land. And near the end of the game, it's what stopped one of them being able to charge down after the ball carrier. But having said that, the fact that Luke started with 4 strength 5 players on the pitch, there's not many times that as a Lizard coach, I'm looking to line up and worried about how many Saurus I'm going to have left, because normally I comfortably out strength people on the line. So in a way, in that kind of sense, it was quite balanced matchup, because I could not guarantee that I would be the strongest team. And it would have only taken a couple of different block rolls, a couple of different armor rolls for Luke to have just picked off one by one those Saurus, and suddenly I'm playing a quick stunty team. So I think there was some balance there, but I was pleased to have the resource I had rather than the players.
Okay, that's interesting. I can see Luke's got a few SP on a Renegade Skaven, so it'll be interesting what Luke does. And Luke's in chat. It would be interesting to see, as you said, it is a long season, so one defeat doesn't really, there's a long way to go, and we've got a lot of teams that still have to play their first matches. So there's a very interesting. I still think there's a lot of interesting combinations you can do with the Chaos Chosen, though, in terms of it. We've talked big guy on NDP a lot of times. It'll be interesting in terms of the combination he's got there. I do like having the Dark Elf Skaven combination, in there as well. Plus, you've got the Human Thrower. So I think there's several things that you could do there. So I think there's still lots that Luke can do with this team in terms of paths it can go as well. Yeah.
I think I normally jinx people by saying stuff like this, but I don't see a world where Luke is not finishing in the top half of the table, and I actually think he can challenge for a top 4 spot. if those big guys behave themselves. And I think that's probably what's going to be the key thing. It is similar to vampires in a way, that kind of, if your key figures behave themselves, I think he's one of the quickest learning players in our league. And having 8 games to learn, I think by the time he's on game 3 or 4, he will have nailed how best to sort of risk mitigate with those big guys. And I've got no doubt that he's going to be, a bit of a force for anyone else that he plays. I
can see Luke in chat, and he's saying, a few big ideas, just need some SPP. It's at the start of any new team.
Yeah,
you need the SPP, and then the momentum will start. As soon as you get a few skills on a few key players, then it does as well. It'll be interesting to see how Luke and this team develop over the next 7 matches.
Well, that's all our games, just the 4 games this week. We had that lovely big delay through technical issues, so we're not going to spend too long on this bit, but we will just have a little look at the two tables that we've got and how we think they kind of match up. And it's quite handy. It would have been somewhat awkward if the 3 of us had all been drawn into the same conference. That would have been kind of tricky to give an opinion on the other side. So from you guys, then, you are both in the ABC, the Amorical Blood Bowl Conference. What was your kind of gut reaction to the teams that you kind of drawn up against in there, the big names that you've got in the likes of Elliot and James and Tom in there? Where's kind of your confidence level looking at the opponents that you're facing and the other people in the group who you may not be facing, but you still have to finish higher than?
Yeah, just for clarification for people watching, what we're actually doing is we're only playing 8 other players out of the division. I got away a little bit lightly with out of the ones you've just mentioned there. I've got Tom though. I've got Tom Hans with his Chaos Dwarfs, which is not a nice kind of thought. I've also got Jamie Yates with his World Edge Berserkers coming back as well. And because I have now kind of bloated out my team, I don't have a lot of inducements. In fact, I think the only game I've got an inducement of a whopping great 35k is against you, Scott. I've got quite a mixed bag of opponents. So there's a lot of different race styles, but that's what I quite like, actually. I've only actually got how many? Only 1 duplicate where I'm playing 2 different necromantic horror teams, which is really nice considering that it looked at the beginning quite Khorne heavy. I've actually only got 1 Khorne team I'm playing against, so I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to playing them. Playing a lot of new players I've never played as well, which is going to be great fun. How about yourself, Scott?
I'm expecting to get my face punched in a lot, to be honest with you, this season. So, apart from yourself, and even Evening Jack, if you're listening, even the other Jack as well, in terms of his necro, in terms of the Washington Deadskins, but then they've got 2 flesh golems. Everyone else is I've got 3 more. I've got 3 more. I had the 1 Chaos chosen. I've got 3 Khorne teams to take, 2 Norse teams with block across the board, and a certain Clueless Crusaders to face as well. So I'm going to have to be reliant on a lot of elf dodging and the quote elf bullshittery to get my way out of a lot of this. And I got a few ideas in terms of maybe have to play a bit of a different game style to actually move players around the pitch. So looking forward to it. I am, it's one of those things. I would have loved to play a few different teams. I'm not going to lose any sleep about avoiding Tom Hans. That's how good he is. But I suspect that playing Phil and the Gilded Knights, playing against JD and his Ravens, and playing once again, looking forward to playing Jack and again his Norse as well. Yeah, I think might have to get a few spare elf linemen ready to rock and roll as well.
It's an interesting side of the draw, yours. I think when I looked at the two, it was odd because I was doing the draw. I wasn't really paying attention to who was ending up in what. So suddenly, like when they were all done, even when mine was pulled and my name was pulled and put on the board, didn't really clock who I was in a group with and who I'd avoided and who I hadn't avoided. My brain just wasn't processing it. But I like your side of the draw. I think there's a good variety there. I think there's there's a good variety of teams and a good variety of coaches as well who kind of play different ways. When I realized what my side of the draw looked like, I was initially terrified by the fact that there was Mr. Reader, Mr. Phipps, Mr. Rue, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Simmons all in there. As far as five kind of people who have been playing this game a while and play it a lot and NAF tournaments and all of this stuff that they've got behind them, I was absolutely terrified. And I think I've got off quite lightly to only playing 2 of those kind of 5 that are in that group. And I'm quite pleased with the variety of coaches that I'm playing as well. The Renegades were an interesting matchup. I've then also got Black Orcs in there. I've got Nurgle in there as well. I've got Snotlings in there. Each game is going to be a kind of slightly different challenge, so I'm kind of quite happy with that. I don't think I'm going to have too many games that are going to feel very similar. I think every game's going to be very, very unique, which should lead to quite a fun season. So, yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to call it there for today, having had our technical issues. Thank you very much to everyone for bearing with us on this first roundup. Technical issues will continue to plague my life from now until eternity, but we'll do our best to plow through. This week, we will try and bring you a live game if we can this week. We also have the latest episode of NDP will be coming out on Thursday, and probably various other things as well. Scott, have I missed anything?
Bounty board. Just remember, guys, if you do have a particular player that you want to see their face buried under the pitch, if you would like to encourage your fellow coaches to basically kill them, go to the bounty board. You'll be able to put on there whatever you'd like to offer for £5, which goes straight to the Suffolk Mind giving page. And yeah, it'll set a nice, interesting precedent. So far, the best bounty is Mr. Scott Norman. You can win a kilo of Jaffa cakes. Come on, what's not to love about that? Go have a look on Discord. You see all the rules there.
Mr. Tom Hovel, anything I've missed?
No, I think you've covered it all. So happy blocking, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of the Roundup. We'll see you at the next one.